pipeline coming through our town that is nothing but a huge negative. It's going to cross underneath or wherever the largest water body in the entire route, Scott Pond. It's going through Rhododendron State Park, which actually affects 3 towns. And the state, so far, hasn't, all the people that we've met with as a pipeline coalition, nobody really wants to take a stand against it. And I guess I'm looking for some kind of support because not just, I think about my town, but I also think about the region, and I think about the fact that the lies that have been put out for the last 2 years about it's going to lower our energy costs, it's going to lower our electricity costs, are all bad information. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking for a candidate. I usually vote Democrat, I usually vote for women, but I'm telling you, I'm
one for 2 there. So,
so you know, but I'll tell you, this campaign season, I am looking for someone who is going to keep fossil fuels in the ground and look at renewables. I like your attitude about solar. I think it's definitely a good way to go. I'm putting it on my studio come spring.
Great.
I'd like to see our town start a project. Maybe speaking too soon, but we haven't started, but we want to look into it.
Yeah.
And so I guess I want to hear from you, and I know that I've read in the paper that you've taken a stand that they haven't answered all your questions. I don't know, Kinder Morgan or SEC, but I can tell you our town is looking to the Clean Water Act as the only protection that we have that isn't preempted by a federal agency.
Yeah.
That is basically serving corporations.
So let me touch on both the pipeline and the solar question that you asked. So I see some folks who have the neon, right? And I feel like some of you were with me in Ringe, right? At the scoping hearing that was at the end of September. And I went to that, there were hundreds of folks there. And it laid out what the concerns that I have are. So this is, the pipeline, I appreciate in a town like Winchester where it comes through, this is something that people feel passionately about in this town, as well as the neighboring towns particularly that are affected, but also people everywhere in the state. I have not supported what Kinder Morgan has proposed. I have said I will continue to keep asking questions, and I'm not going to stop asking questions about it. I'll go through what some of those questions are. But at its core, no one has convinced me that this is a good thing for the people of New Hampshire. And whether it's at that scoping hearing or the individual meetings that I've had informally at house parties, but also specifically I met with some of the pipeline awareness groups and Merrimack and other parts of the state, I think the concerns that have been raised are legitimate. So here's why I have not supported it. I do not believe anyone has given us a full accounting for where the gas will go. And I'm not sure that the cost benefit, setting aside, we'll get to the environmental impacts in a minute, but the cost benefit actually works for the people of New Hampshire. My concern is that all electric ratepayers will pay for gas that many folks will not see any benefit from. And if too much of the gas is exported, then many people will not see any benefit from it. So that's a big economic concern that I have, that essentially we're just funding a corporation's ability to build a pipeline, but not really getting an economic return. There also are environmental concerns that I have about it. I just think if you're going to make a 30-year-long investment, I would rather not make it out of fracked gas out of Pennsylvania. I'd rather make it out of a technology instead of a fuel. Because fuel will always get dirtier and more expensive over time, but technology will get better and better and better and better. So it's why I have advocated for solar as strongly as I have. And then there are just some technical reasons. There's half a dozen pipelines that are in the process of being planned around the state. I think they should have an environmental impact looking at all of them together rather than individually. And there are probably some more details I could go into that. I think the job that folks have done raising awareness on this issue has been healthy and important. I think the fossil fuel industry, to be totally candid, is a powerful industry in this country. And even in the state, it's not like Texas, but it still has a big impact here. And so to get to the second part of what you were talking about solar, this is not just about any individual solar project. When I used to work at Stonyfield, at the time we put the biggest solar project in the state on the roof of our yogurt plant. And I'm going to throw a number where this may not mean something to some folks, but you'll see the contrast. At the time it was 47 kilowatts was what that solar array could produce. 3 months ago, we flipped the switch on now the biggest one in the state of New Hampshire in Peterborough, and it's 950 kilowatts. 20 times, 19 times as big. And we will keep getting more efficient, and it will keep being lower in cost. So not only have I fought for individual projects, and by the way, Chris Sununu, who's my main opponent in this race, has voted against almost every single solar project we've ever seen as a state, more than I think any other elected official that we have. But we also, there's something called net metering, which means that if you produce more energy than you're using at a moment, you should be able to sell it back to the grid for other houses or communities. There's a cap on that, it's arbitrary. It needs to get fixed, both lifted and then ultimately eliminated. And we've made some progress because a lot of us have been pushing on that, but it's not enough progress yet. So, thanks for your question, I appreciate it.
Almost all of that.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I'm not a woman.